49ers Ultimate Report. This is John Jay, your 49ers reporter, opinionist, analyst, and die-hard fan with the shades today because I got a big guest on. Want it to be a little bit, a little flashy today, have some fun today because we have a great guest on today. But before we jump into the episode, I want to give a shout out to all of my subscribers, all my followers, those who support the channel. You guys are the best. Thank you for all your great support. As I mentioned, the 49ers Ultimate Report is the place for you because you guys hop on in here, talk 49ers football with me when you guys call in, interact with me in the chat. And of course, you enjoy all my great live streams and all of my great guests on. So I want to shout out the great fans of the 49ers Ultimate Report. So today, as I mentioned, John Jay is sporting the shades today. And it must be a very special show because every time I have the shades on, it's a great show or we have a guest on. So let's bring in our guest. Before I give you the guest on today, I want to give a little introduction. I was on this show, I think about a week ago. It's in my community tab. These guys are a growing little podcast, just like my boy, The Deep Dig, Shifty, and everybody else who is part of the 49ers Ultimate Report. Their YouTube channel, BullyBall. And one of their hosts, his name is Alex. Let's bring in BullyBall's, the host of BullyBall, Alex. Thanks for tuning in to the show.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me on. Just a little quick intro about our podcast. Like John said, we run BullyBall. That's our channel name. It's me and my brother, Joseph. We just started this off season, so we're growing a little bit, but it's great to collab with other content creators like John himself, trying to grow our channel just like how he did. So appreciate you having us on.
Yeah. And just like you said, you're talking about your channel, you're growing, collaborating with the great 49er faithfuls. So first of all, let's get to know a little bit about you, just a little bit. First of all, like how long have you been a 49er fan? When did you realize that you love the 49ers? And then tell us how and you and your brother decided, let's do something on YouTube and talk about your podcast. So just let us know a little bit about yourself. Tell us about your journey as a 49er fan and your journey on YouTube.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I was kind of born into the Niner fandom, My dad and grandpa were lifelong 49er fans going to they were there for like the catch 2.0 with T.O. having that catch against the Packers. And then just growing up, just been a diehard. Got to see Candlestick before they tore it down. Got to get on that field, which was great. Great experience. Me and my brother, we always had this group chat texting about the Niners, after the games or even during the games, really. And we were like, why not share this with the other faithful? We like talking football. We like interacting with other Niner fans. So we just said, hey, let's just make a little channel. And it's been fun. We've got to have some great opportunities to interview guys like Randy Cross, Terrell Brown, Jason Poe, who's on the 49ers practice squad. So it's definitely opened a lot of doors for us that we didn't think were going to happen.
Yeah. And you talk about Candlestick Park, I was born just right outside, just one side of Candlestick Park. I grew up there in that area, basically I've been very fortunate that I got to live there, pass by the stadium almost all the time, when I went to school or when I left my house to go somewhere, anywhere, I had to go through Candlestick Park to go anywhere. So it was part of my life, part of my childhood. And when they tore it down, it was a big part of me, that was leaving. I was fortunate to attend 100 events, mostly baseball games, Giants games from 95 to 1999. I attended my first 49er game was that season of 2002. And then I went to 6 other games before they closed the stadium in 2013. So went to so many great events over there. I miss it. And yeah, for those who've been there, I know it wasn't the most luxurious stadium. It was like pure concrete, old school, late 50s, early 60s technology. Now we play at Santa Clara at Levi Stadium, which is now the home of the 49ers. Have not been to Santa Clara, the stadium yet. I've been to the region many times, but I've never been to the stadium yet. So, like, it's always good when someone talks about Candlestick Park because it's part of my life, and I'm one of the very rare people who could tell you millions of stories. But again, we don't have time for that. But it's always good to when someone says, "Oh, I went to Candlestick," watch all those 49er games. I'm like, "Oh," and those are the great memories. So appreciate, the appreciate all that information that you let me and the audience know. Now, just like I always do on my channel, I read the comments, and this is a New York Giants fan, and again, I also have fans from other teams. So this is a New York Giants fan. YTC Production says, "Good afternoon, fellas," and me and him are angry that the Cowboys win because you know us, we had rivalries with those pesky Cowboys. So every time the Cowboys win, it's not fun.
Yeah, definitely.
We got Jersey Dolphin, a Dolphins fan in the building. My boy Damian Lee, he is from Texas, but he's a faithful and he deals with those pesky Cowboys fans. So he wears his Trey Lance jersey just to piss off all the Cowboys fans. So, and I know Damian Lee always reminds, "Oh, what happened last year in the divisional round?" So my boy Damian Lee always lets those pesky Cowboys fans, you
Yep,
know,
love to see it.
you know. All right, Carcass, another youngster, also part of the 49ers Ultimate Report, only 15 years old. He's from the East Coast. He's a diehard 49ers fan. Uh, I've had him on the show like 3 times already. This guy is legit. He's the future of podcasting, and I'm so honored to know him. I don't know if you met or ever heard of Carcass, but he's a 49ers content creator.
Yeah, I think he's been on our channel before too, one time. One of our earlier live streams, I believe.
That's
Definitely a
wonderful.
great guy.
You have Carcass. Anyway, Carcass says, "Oh, okay, I heard of these guys." So yeah, he knows you very well. And Carcass says, "Screw the Cowboys, go Niners." Yep, Carcass and I always agree. All right, and the Giants fan is saying, "What's up to Carcast?" And then screw the Cowgirls. Still, we gotta let our payback on Thanksgiving. Hopefully, they beat them on Thanksgiving. All right, let's move on and let's start the show by talking about your reaction, your thoughts of this very, very stressful and angry football game that the 49ers should have won, but just like everyone says, should have, could have, would have, the Niners should have won. So I want to get your thoughts, like your perspective on this game, the 49ers and Broncos 11-10 loss, which is a weird score, 11-10, very weird. But I want to get your thoughts on this game, and how are you feeling about this game? Are you over it now, or are you still a little bit upset?
Yeah. So I'm actually, just to give a little background, I'm actually in the U.S. Navy. So I'm stationed in Spain right now. Right now for me, it's 9 p.m. So when that Niners game came on, it was about 2:20 in the morning. But I stayed up. I watched all the games super late. So I was watching it. That first drive, I think we got stopped. We didn't make much progress on offense. Then that second drive came, right? And we marched down the field. Jeff Wilson has that great run. We have the touchdown pass to Ayuk. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be a good game. The Niners are going to put in some work. I believe in our defense. We have one of the best defenses in the NFL, if not the best defense in the NFL, no doubt. Um, so after that, I was definitely thinking, okay, we're going to run away with this game probably. Then the offense kind of stalled, and it just didn't look right. It didn't look right. Jimmy didn't look right. We kind of got away from the run game, which was unfortunate because Jeff Wilson was really having a great game. I believe he was having about 6 yards per carry, which was great. You love to see that. So you wish they would have stuck with the run a little bit more. But I mean, the good thing is you can't get any worse than that. You know what I mean? We can only get better from here. Jimmy, I know there's a lot of heat on Jimmy, and he probably played his worst game as a 49er in that game, I believe. He had that pick. That pick was terrible. I don't know what he was looking at. That was unexcusable play by him for sure. And then you had the safety as well, which was a tough call. I don't really get the play action in the red zone. So it was either really a safety or a pick six. We got the safety. It looked bad on Jimmy, but that is what it is. But I think over time, they'll get some fluidity, some chemistry, with Debo, Ayuk, George Kittle, and they'll really be able to piece it together. If you guys remember last year, I believe our record was 3-5, maybe when we played the Rams last year the first time, and that was the game that really turned our season around. We put a good spanking on the Rams at home, so hopefully that can happen this year too, because the season's still young. We're only 1-2. The Rams, I think, are leading the division at 2-1. So the season's still young. We still have a lot of great opportunities coming ahead for sure.
Yeah. Like for me, I've watched Jimmy Garoppolo play since 2017. And there was a lot of expectations that, when he won 5 games in a row, there was that expectation. And this goes back to Colin Kaepernick, when he had those big fun games when he took over for Alex Smith. When Alex Smith was with Harbaugh, finally after all those years of misery, we thought we finally got the Alex Smith. And then, we go back to the days where, Alex Smith was inconsistent, all the quarterback changes. And even during Jeff Garcia's days, like, we've not had that long term, quarterback for the long haul. And fans have been always like, every time they see that quarterback, that's the next Montana, that's the next Steve Young. And we put so much emphasis on these quarterbacks. And Jimmy Garoppolo, as I mentioned, he's had great games. A lot of people forget the good games he has, but they always spotlight the biggest games where he has done horrible. And of course, this game was probably the lowest points of his 49ers career that you just talked about. You said it is so hard for me to support Jimmy Garoppolo after what he did, because again, we know what you can do. You've worked with this team. You've said that this was the first time you worked with these guys, and it came out wrong. It came out wrong. It sounded bad. It was what it was. It was just a weird way to say. Maybe what he meant to say was it's the first time with this offensive line. This offensive line and I do not have chemistry yet. Maybe he tried to say that, but unfortunately, it sounded how he sounded, and he was trying to make excuses for all the mistakes that he did. And that's the thing about Jimmy Garoppolo, why people the last couple of days have been on him on social media, on him on the media, because of his comments and why he never takes accountability. But again, and we're also going to talk about Jimmy again. We're also going to talk about Kyle Shanahan. But Kyle Shanahan is the coach, and this is now your sixth season, and you're starting off the season with a losing record. Now you got the Rams, and there's going to be that strong stretch that I've talked about from week 7 to week 14, 8 weeks and 7 games of teams who are playing better than the 49ers at this moment. So we will see what the 49ers are going to do against the Rams. And you talked about it. Maybe we have to beat up the Rams like we always do every year, and then finally we'll go back to our winning ways, because I think every time we play the Rams, people underestimate us and we beat them, and then we have great consistency after we beat the Rams. It's like what happened last year. We beat the Rams. We finished the season with a 7-2 record. We should have beat the Seahawks. We should have been 8-1, and then we just went through the playoffs. Of course, playing the same team 3 times in the season is never good for the team that sweeps them. It's always been the number. So hopefully this loss is a reminder to the 49ers that if this is the standard that you want, hopefully we can figure out something. That's not going to be easy because Trent Williams going to be gone for a while. We still got Elijah Mitchell. He's going to be out for a while. Aziz is going to be gone. So we've been losing pieces in the first 3 weeks. And of course, Trey Lance got hurt. So, hopefully this does not become a 2020 season where everyone is just dropping like flies. So uh, that's my thoughts about that as well. All right. All right. YTC says, shout out to Damian Lee for being in the Hornets nest. All right. And then YTC says, Jesus, shout out to you, them being dedicated to the Niners faithful in Spain. Yeah, damn. I would be sleeping if I was in Europe because I would not be able to watch those late 49er games. All right, YTC says, I wouldn't be shocked if the Niners win this Monday since you guys always do better on Monday against the Rams at home. Hopefully, hopefully. Like I'm always cautious. I've never ever say every these games are going to be easy for us. I'm always like every game's going to be hard. All right, Joseph is in the house. I think this is the first time I see. Welcome, Joseph. Thank you for tuning in to the 49ers Ultimate Report. My name is John J. With no H, Jon. That's how my parents decided to call me. Funny name. But thank you very much, Joseph, for tuning in. Great collab. 49ers must win versus the Rams or their season is a wrap. 49ers going to have to go 6-0 in the division to make the playoffs this year with Jimmy at quarterback. Ooh, I don't know. Do you think we can go 6-0 against the division?
I mean, it's going to be interesting because we really don't know what the Rams are right now. Same with the Cardinals. The Seahawks, you kind of, they're going to be at the bottom of the barrel this year. Um, I mean, it's possible. It's definitely possible. Anything's possible. I don't know about 6-0, maybe like 5-1 or 4-2. Um, but it's wide open. It's an open race for anybody. And division games are always going to be tough, no matter how good or bad the other team is. So it'll be interesting. It's going to be an interesting race this year for sure.
Yeah. Like our division, for whatever the reason, there are three teams that are 1-2. And of course, the Rams are in first place. Like this division is not what it used to be just a few years ago. It's not that same division. Um, and as long as the 49ers, go at least 500 against the division, because divisional matchups, like we beat the Seahawks, so we have to go 5-0 against. I don't think that's going to happen. Last year the 49ers were 2-4. We only beat the Rams. We lost to the Seahawks and the Cardinals. Both those victories, the Cardinals one were bad performances on us. We let them win. But as long as we get 3 or 4 victories, I will be okay. Because again, it's hard to go a perfect 6-0, and I don't know when the last time or if ever the Niners have swept their division. So that's a really good question. All right.
Yeah, because remember back in like 2012, 2013, when the Niners, when we were at our peak, with Alex Smith and Kaepernick, and the Rams were terrible, and the Rams would still always find a way to beat us, even though no matter how good we were. So that's what I agree with you. It's definitely going to be a tough fight in this division, no matter what.
Mm-hmm. Yep, man. But again, like when it comes to divisional matchups, as long as you're able to have a 500 or better record, you should be doing okay. All right, now let's move on. Let's move on and talk about, just as we were talking about, Jimmy Garoppolo's performance. I want to get your thoughts. If you saw anything positive, you can let me know. I talked about this already on my Monday reaction show every time after the day after the game. But let me know your thoughts, your performance. Did you see anything positive? Did you see, negatives? Let me know your thoughts on Jimmy Garoppolo's performance against the Broncos.
Yeah, so I think everybody kind of saw what happened. He definitely had, you could almost put the game on Jimmy's shoulders, I guess you could say, because he had that missed touchdown to Debo early in the first or second quarter. And then he had the underthrow to Debo that probably would have been a touchdown on that wheel route. Um, he had the fumble, which Kyle Shanahan said was really on Brendel, the center, because Brendel snapped it on 2, and Jimmy was expecting the ball on 1. So that was on Brendel. So I'll excuse Jimmy from that one. Um, and then, of course, that interception and the safety. So, there's a lot of key mistakes that are on Jimmy. Of course, they're not all Jimmy's fault because the O-line wasn't holding up as well. Once Trent Williams went out and you're going to have a backup O-lineman come in, obviously, the team's not going to be the same. The offense isn't going to be the same, even in the run game. Um, so, yeah, I mean, this was, like you said earlier too, this was probably the worst Jimmy G performance that we've seen as Niner fans. So the good thing about that is we can only go up from here. And usually when I saw a stat on Twitter, I think it was, that Jimmy usually starts out pretty rough in like his first game of the season. So this was his first like real start. You know, he took over in the Seahawks game. No, he didn't start it. He came back in the first or second quarter. Um, so his first real start, he struggled. History shows that he usually does this. So we can only go up from here with Jimmy. I definitely expect him to bounce back. You know, give him another week of practice with Debo, Kittle, Ayuk, and it was interesting you said too. A lot of people are getting on Jimmy because he didn't take accountability for his actions in that game. You know, he kind of made those excuses, and I think a big reason why people have problems with that is because you see a 22-year-old Trey Lance, you know, after that week 1 loss, and he's taking ownership of all his mistakes that he had. Any mistake, even if it wasn't his mistake, any mistake that the offense made, Trey Lance took ownership of that. And Jimmy G's a 9-year vet, and he's like you said, he might have just said it weird. You know, it just came out different. Because I know some, you know, we all have trouble pronouncing things a certain way, even though we're trying to not say it like that. So maybe that's what Jimmy G was saying, but it's tough when you see a 22-year-old rookie essentially taking ownership for all these mistakes, and
Mm.
the 9-year vet's not really owning up to it. So yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, one thing about Jimmy Garoppolo that most people do not understand is that there are three things that most people do not know about Jimmy unless you are very close with them. During the offseason, he does not talk to the coach. He doesn't talk to the general manager, ownership, or any of the players because it's the offseason. You know, he does not want to be bothered. But at the same time, another thing that he doesn't do is social media. And he's basically Jimmy Garoppolo is about like 1 or 2 years younger than me, so we're about the same age. And I'm the same way with Jimmy Garoppolo. I am not a social media person. I don't have Twitter. I only have Instagram, for promoting my channel, things like that. I am a very, very like closeted person. I don't really, if I do not know you, I'm not going to talk to you. Like if you're like part of my family, my friends, the people in my life, that's who I talk to. I don't care about outside noises. I don't care about you know stuff on the television. I don't care about what people do on YouTube because that's who I am. So Jimmy is that type of person. But one thing that most people do not understand is that uh, back in the day, every player was like us as a collective, us as a collective. Jimmy's like us. So he basically puts when he says we, he says me and everyone. So it's like for him, instead of saying I made mistakes, my team made mistakes, he says we. So a lot of people just interpret him like, all right, he's trying to put his bad stuff on his team, but at the same time, what the team also does, he also puts on his shoulders. And a lot of people don't like that, but at the end of the day, that's just who he is. But at the same time, Jimmy, I do want him to be like, when I got to play, Kyle does not, let us, audible. So he wanted me to do a play action. So I did a play action. And when you do a play action, you roll out. But because our offensive line is horrible, Jimmy had no space, and he stepped out of bounds, threw the ball, tried to. Well, he rarely throws the ball away. It's just really hard to understand why Jimmy, says the stuff he says. Personally, I don't really care, but you'd have to put some context into it. But at the end of the day, let's talk about a guy who was drafted in 2014. It is 2022. He's been in the league for now 9 seasons. He's been a starting quarterback on a regular since 2017, and he's still doing these things that he should have done like maybe like in 2017 and 2018, and then show the progress. But for whatever the reason, like he still does the same thing. Is it Kyle's fault? Is because he always looks at his first read, which is George Kittle. Does he not read the passes? You talked about, Brandon Ayuk and Debo Samuel wide open. So it's just a very weird situation for 49er fans. And that's why Jimmy gets a lot of hatred. And again, fans are who they are. Like, fans are gonna yell and scream and say Jimmy's the worst thing ever since sliced bread for whatever. People are gonna make a lot of random excuses, but at the end of the day, for me, uh, Jimmy better play way better against the Rams and the rest of the season. Hopefully, this is the lowest point of the 2022 season. I'm expecting Jimmy to make mistakes, but hopefully he minimizes them and just plays better than week 3. So that's just my thoughts about that.
Yeah, the thing that's kind of unfortunate too is these are kind of the mistakes that you would expect out of Trey Lance. You know, the way people talk about Trey Lance, you would kind of expect these type of mistakes. You know, running out of the end zone, uh, throwing that interception, missing the wide open players. You know, the way people kind of talk about him, that's what you would expect from Trey Lance. And like you said, Jimmy's a 9-year vet, and he's still making these mistakes that he was making in 2017 when he first took over the team. So it's unfortunate for sure. But like we said, you can only get better from here. You can't get much worse than that. And I hope that he can play better for the sake of the team and for the sake of my happiness too. Because if he keeps playing like this and we keep losing, I'm gonna be a sad 49ers fan for a while.
Oh man, that is true. So true. All right, let's go back to the comments because I got a few comments that just popped in. All right. All right, I read that one. All right, here we go. Joseph says, "Do you think Jimmy stays healthy the entire season? The O line already was giving a ton of pressures in the passing situation. Now that Trent Williams is out, what should we be expecting?" Would you like to take this comment?
Sure. Yeah. Like we said, if we said on our podcast on Bully Ball that I was one thing that I was scared about for the rest of the season is Jimmy's health because in the past Jimmy hasn't been able to stay healthy. You know what I mean? In a press conference, Kyle Shanahan, when we traded those draft picks for to get up to number 3, Kyle Shanahan said that the thing with Jimmy is it's starting with his health. You know, he can't really stay healthy. He's had multiple seasons where he's been hurt almost every season, whether it was a significant injury or even a little bit more of a minor injury. And yeah, with the O line giving up the pressures like we were in this last game, it's going to be interesting and it's scary because if Jimmy goes out, I know a lot of people want like Brock Purdy in right now, but I'm telling you, Purdy's probably even worse than what we saw on Sunday night. So unfortunately, I don't see Jimmy staying healthy the whole season just because of the O line and just his history in general.
Yeah, and I have said since the offseason, I've said even in 2021, offensive line, offensive line, offensive line. And the funny thing about it, because a lot of people were like, they were complaining, yelling, screaming, being fans, that Jimmy's $24 million, base salary and 27.5 cap hit was the reason why we lost DJ Jones, Lincoln Tomlins. The 49ers paid their athletes. They paid their rookies. They paid their veterans. They paid the players. And of course, they lost players. It's part of football. But if they were able to pay their players, why were they unable to pay Lincoln Thomas? Why did we not focus on offensive line instead of, no disrespect, I like Drake Jackson. I still think it was not a pick that was important, but Drake Jackson, the defense continues to get more depth and more better pieces at the edge rush. But we never addressed that. We did not go and get an offensive lineman during the free agent market. We try to, get a center just in case, if we all found out later Alex Mack retired. We never addressed that right side, right guard. Now Trent Williams is gone. Mike McGlinchey is looking bad as always. And now Jalen Moore and Colton McKivitz. That's going to be the two guys rotating until they find out who's the better guy. And Kyle, you're going to get Jimmy hurt because there's no protection. Our running backs are hurt. Our running game with Deebo Samuel this year is not going to do what it did last year. I think Kyle has to realize they figured out Deebo because look what happened. 5 carries for 6 yards. They figured out Deebo. So I think you cannot use Deebo or your running backs or wide receivers in that manner no more because they're figuring it out. And if you're only doing that because your running backs are hurt, I worry about this team. And if, say, Brock Purdy has to play, it's another Nick Mullins situation. He is not ready. He is not ready. And we have to start to put the accountability that this is going to be a long season for us. Unless, as I mentioned, as I said this, the Broncos defense is good. They're a really good defense. So maybe the Rams defense may not be at the same level as the Broncos, but again, that's still a good defense. So we'll see what happens because we got the Rams, the Falcons, and the Panthers. So the next 4 games that we have, the next 3 games that we have is going to determine how we start off that long, grueling 8 weeks of 7 games of top tier teams. So we'll see what happens. And they do have to address that offensive line. And again, this is going to be very difficult for me to say. I don't know what the outlook is for the next 14 weeks, but I don't see a positive moving forward. So that's a scary situation. We got a Steelers fan in the building. What's up, Chad? He said, what's up, 49er fans? Shout out to my boy, Chad, the Steelers fan. YTC says, don't worry, I'm still here listening, editing. All right. Always talks about his channel. All right, let's talk about this topic. I talked about it yesterday on my channel. I want to get your thoughts. Is Kyle Shanahan the problem for the 49ers? Loss versus the Broncos. And not just the Broncos, but I pointed out some stats and information about Kyle Shanahan that the quarterbacks that he's had were his quarterbacks that he chose. He chose Hoyer in 2017. Then he drafted Beathard. The following year, they got an undrafted quarterback in Mullins, Jimmy Garoppolo. And now you have Trey Lance. So when it comes to this quarterback guru, I think many people are starting to realize that maybe Kyle Shanahan has been a product of having quality quarterbacks wherever he's been. So I want to get your thoughts. Do you think Kyle Shanahan is the problem? Or do you think that it's not Kyle's fault and we're just putting too much blame on Garoppolo and Kyle? So I want to get your thoughts if maybe Kyle does hinder that offense.
Yeah, it's interesting for sure. I wouldn't say Kyle's the only problem because I think it's really a collective thing. But Kyle Shanahan, is known around the league as an offensive guru, an offensive mastermind, this like great play caller. And it's kind of unfortunate because that offense that we saw uh, last week, and then especially in week 1 as well, it did not look like you have an offensive mastermind, drawing these plays up. It definitely didn't look like that. With the Chiefs, Andy Reid, great play caller. I don't know if he calls the plays or if it's Bieniemy, but their offense is always pretty explosive. So it's unfortunate that you see Kyle Shanahan not looking like that great offensive mastermind. I know a lot of people were saying, "Oh, maybe it's Mike McDaniels. Maybe Mike McDaniels was like the secret recipe for Shanahan's offense." I mean, look at Mike McDaniel now. He's with the Dolphins and they're 3-0. Is that because Mike McDaniel's calling the plays? Maybe. But they also have a great offense. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. The running backs are explosive. Former 49er Mostert. But you don't see that explosion that you would expect from an offensive mastermind in Shanahan. You know what I mean? Like, you should be seeing this great offense. Now, maybe that is on Jimmy too, because he's not able to execute those plays because there was those plays. Debo on that will route was wide open, and Jimmy underthrew him. Earlier in the first quarter, Debo was wide open again, and Jimmy just missed him. So maybe it is on Jimmy. I think it's on both of them, really. I think you definitely can call better plays, especially like that play where Jimmy got the safety. You shouldn't be calling a play action or a screen pass in the red zone when you're at like your 3-yard line. That just shouldn't happen as a play caller. You should run the ball or do a slant route, quick slant, quick pass, something like that. So I think it's definitely on Shanahan and it's definitely on Jimmy. They both need to they're married together. If one does bad, the other's going to do bad. If one does good, the other's going to do great. So I think it's on the both of them for
Mm-hmm.
sure.
I know, because like, let's talk about something that I have said. Going back to the 2010, 2011 Washington football team, Shanahan's father, and then you had McVay, LaFleur, both LaFleur brothers, McDaniels. You had those guys, that core. And everywhere Shanahan has gone, those guys have followed. Those guys have followed. So let's look at Kyle Shanahan's tree. It speaks of volumes of how good Shanahan is as a coach. McVay, the youngest head coach in NFL history, I think he was 31 when he took over the Rams job. He could have been our coach, and maybe we would have had better success. Maybe we would have won maybe 2 Lombardis. I don't know. I'm just going hypothetical. What he has done with the Rams, he took Goff and made him an MVP. Well, he never won the MVP, but he made him an MVP style quarterback. They went to 2 Super Bowls. They have 2 NFC titles. They won it in only 5 seasons. McVay has showed that he's able to take the risk and he's able to develop the players. And of course, he's had quality players. So it's a bit unfair while Kyle has had to develop, but you see what McVay is not afraid of. Let's go to Green Bay. He doesn't inherit Aaron Rodgers, but Aaron Rodgers, since LaFleur has been there, he's been having MVP style league years. They've had a balanced offense. They've been able to make Aaron Rodgers be more careful, way more better. And then you see LaFleur, who I still think Tua is a bust, but I think LaFleur will make this kid into a system quarterback. And look what uh, Tua is doing. He's exceeding expectations. LaFleur is good at what he does. And then you go to the Jets, they're a bad situation, but they're running the same offense. So these coaches have better success. And it's not because they're bad, is they come from a good tree. But for Shanahan, why does he not have the same success as them? And we can't say, LaFleur has Aaron Rodgers or McVay, had Goff. Goff was not good. Oh, now he has Matthew Stafford. Well, Matthew Stafford was rotting in the Lions. He finally has a defense in the run game. What do you expect? Tua was never good. Now Tua is looking like a quality quarterback. So I don't want to hear the excuses that the Niners had nothing when he tried it. This team is good. We've developed and brought great talent, but for whatever the reason, our talent gets hurt. Our talent is inconsistent, and it's always the offense. The defense is a different story. So I don't know why that's a situation. That's just my thoughts about it. And until I'm proven wrong, hopefully maybe it was a 1 game fluke. Again, as a fan, I'm tired of getting my hopes up. We should have beaten the Bears and we should have beaten Denver. And it's sad that we lost 2 games. We lost in both our games were weird points. Like Denver is better than the Bears. We lost by 1. The Bears are a rebuilding franchise. We lost by 9 and we blew a 10-point lead. So Kyle has to take accountability that when he coaches and you have a lead, you make sure that your offense runs the clock and puts points on the board and you rest your defense. But I'm going to digress. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I agree with all those points you made.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to the GOAT, Corey Davis, the GOAT. He's the real GOAT. Corey Davis, the OG 49er fan. And shout out to my boy, Corey Davis. My boy, David McNew, is in another GOAT, another OG 49er. It's Niners all damn day. Jimmy, us, Hall of Fame. Yeah, David does not like Jimmy Garoppolo. Oh, man, that's pretty cool. Corey says, hello, David and Bully. So he's saying, what's up to you? The great Corey Davis. Let me say what's up to Crazy Juice, my boy out there in LA. He's in 49ers territory because my Rams fans, there are no Rams fans in LA anyway. Be a little funny right now because I got this Rams fan. He always like, oh, we got the best fans in LA. Nah, you have Raider fans, Niner fans, even Charger. I have not seen a Rams fan out there yet. So little fun thing. But he'll pop in here and talk about that they're gonna win 3 more Super Bowls. That's what they do. All right. Everyone is saying what's up in the chat. Joseph says Kyle Shanahan is too conservative. He chokes away leads because of his conservativeness. I agree. You agree?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Atlanta Super Bowl when he lost, when he obviously what he's kind of known for is the 28-3 blown lead with the Falcons against the Patriots. Maybe that scarred him. I don't think he's ever been able to bounce back because the Niners are always blowing 10-point leads somehow. They're always blowing 10-point leads, and it's the most frustrating thing ever. Um, of course, that obviously goes back to Jimmy G too, because you can always get that boneheaded turnover from Jimmy G, whether it's the pick. Most of the time, it's picks, just boneheaded picks. So that's unfortunate, but I agree, definitely too conservative.
And this is a New York Giants fan that should have known he was that conservative since 2016. And this is a trend. This is a trend. This is a trend. Again, uh, it's happened all the time. And the 2016 is a reminder. So, like in 2019, he should have learned from what happened against and not made the same mistakes. He did it. Okay. Last year we made it to the NFC Championship. Oh, look what happened in 2019. Look what happened. He should have already had 2 games and realized let's do something different. Did the same thing. He has lost 3 big games, big games, and unfortunately, that is the reality of that. All right, everyone is saying hello in the chat. Yep. There's even Packers fans in Los Angeles. Damn. All right. Shout out to Corey Davis for the $5 super chat. For those who don't know what this is a super chat. And Corey Davis always donates to my channel. He's too generous. I'm not sure why he donates to me. I am not like the big channels, but appreciate Corey. Corey Davis says, John Jay, I'm having my show tonight at 7 p.m. Pacific time. I will be there, Corey. I will be there at that time to hang out with my boy Corey Davis. He will be making the selections of the week 4 picks, who's going to win, who's going to lose. So I am going to be there no matter what. I'm there, Corey. I am there. I will never miss a Wednesday show. But thank you for the $5 super chat. This means a lot to me because, again, of course, I'm very fortunate to earn a little bit of a pocket change from YouTube. For those that to that 1K club, it's one of those little perks. But again, I am not making, can't believe I'm going to say this on my show, Grant Cohen money. I think everyone strives to be like that, but I love doing this. And one day, I will consider this a job. So I'm not quitting my day job yet, but hopefully I'm fortunate enough to do this. Anyway, thank you very much. All right. Now let's talk about the upcoming week. Stop talking about the past. And the 49ers are playing the LA Rams preview. Monday Night Football. It's going to be a fun game. Cannot wait for Monday Night Football. Another standalone game. And the Niners have a lot to prove. Like they got to shut up the national critics for all the stuff that's happened. Hopefully Jimmy has a chip on his shoulder. I'm not going to make no boneheaded mistakes like Sunday night. And again, this is good for Jimmy because everyone's going to watch him. Hopefully he learns from his mistakes. And hopefully this Monday night game wakes up the 49ers. Again, our offensive line, I'm a little bit worried about that. But let's preview this game. And what are your thoughts on this game? What can we expect? And are you excited for the Monday night football game?
Yeah, it should be a great game. We kind of touched on it earlier. In the past, the 49ers have always played extremely well against the Rams. So that's good. Is this a home game? Do you know?
So I think it's a home game. Yeah.
Okay. So primetime game. Levi's is going to be rocking. All the faithful are going to show out Monday night. So we'll have that home field advantage for sure. That's going to be in our favor. I think the team's going to come out with a chip on the shoulder. I think they all kind of got embarrassed, especially that offense. The defense is going to play lights out as usual. I think we'll finish with probably like the top 2 defense in the NFL, and they're not going to be number 2. So I think the offense, though, is going to come out with a chip on their shoulder, and I think we're going to get this ball rolling again. If we can get out of this game with a dub, put us at 2-2, and then you play Atlanta and Carolina. If you can come out of those games 4-2, the season's not looking that bleak anymore. We're looking good. We're going to be going, like you said, into that pretty tough 8-week stretch with a 4-2 record, which is good. Um, so I think it's going to be a good game for sure. These games are always pretty close. I would expect another close one. I think George Kittle's going to get it moving again. Debo going to get it going. So I would expect a good game. And hopefully we can get out of there with the win because we definitely need it. We can't be if we go to 1-3, it's going to be a big hole to climb out of. Big hole to climb out of. So I'm excited. Uh, if you're able to get to that game, if you're a Niner fan living in the area of Santa Clara, try to get out there, be loud. We need that home field advantage because it goes a long way, especially for our defense.
Yeah, and it is very funny from what happened last year. It was a Monday night game. It was a game at Santa Clara, and the 49ers just like demolished the Rams. I think it was like 31-10. I don't know the exact score, but we blew them out. And I'm hoping that this is the spark that the Niners need. And one of the things about this game that are some talking points about the offensive line. That's going to be a big talking point because the offensive line is going to look very different. It's going to be very inexperienced. Of course, Brendo in his fourth career start of his career. Uh, Aaron Banks his fourth career start. Burford his fourth career start. Jalen Moore, who played some time last year, but his first career start at left tackle. So you're going to have four players on the offensive line combined with I think with less than 15, no, less than a less than 15 game experience, and that is scary. And then you have Mike McGlinchey, who is good at some point, bad at some point. I worry. I worry. So that's a big talking point for the 49ers. Of course, how healthy is Debo? How healthy is George Kittle? How healthy are our linebackers? The offense is going to be a big problem for the 49ers. I'm calling it right now. I worry about the offense. I think the offense could be the issue. The defense is going to be great. We know the defense. So if somehow the 49ers figure something out and we just beat them with a very inexperienced offensive line, we just own the Rams. We just own the Rams. Like maybe there's a reason why we always beat them because they never figure it out. They always say we beat you when it matters, but when it comes like in the last 35 years, the 49ers have had a 63 win percentage against the Rams. We've owned them in that span. They have never swept us. We've swept them. They rarely beat us. They always go 1-1 at their best time. Maybe we just own the Rams. Maybe that's going to be uh, the situation. But that's my thoughts about the Rams 49ers game. Another thing I want to talk about is, of course, the matchups of coaches versus coaches. So many people want to know, like, can McVay finally beat Shanahan in a regular season game? We we don't know. So that's gonna be another big storyline. So the next thing about this game, what are some storylines? What are some storylines of the Rams and 49ers? What are your thoughts? What are the big things everyone's gonna be talking about when as we get to the game?
Yeah, I think in the past, at least the past year for sure, this has definitely become more of a heated rivalry. You see Aaron Donald kind of saying things about the Niners, how he hates us and doesn't care about us really. And then you see Debo kind of saying the same stuff, like, oh, they don't mean anything to me. So it's definitely going to be a physical game. I think a big storyline is going to be Aaron Donald versus the interior of the 49ers offensive line with that inexperience, like you said, um, going up against Burford, Banks, Brendel. Because if you guys have watched, Aaron Banks kind of struggles to anchor in pass protection, And if you're going against Aaron Donald, you're going to need some help. So we're going to have to find a way to almost double team Aaron Donald every play, because if not, he's going to wreak havoc. And that's going to be a huge, huge disadvantage for the 49ers. And then I think another thing to look for is Debo against Jalen Ramsey, because I'm sure Jalen Ramsey will probably be shadowing Debo wherever he's at. So that's going to be a great, fun battle, even if it's Brandon Ayuk versus Jalen Ramsey. That's going to be an extremely fun battle to watch between our receivers and Jalen Ramsey, because he's obviously one of the best corners in the league. So those two storylines to me are pretty big ones, and I think they're going to be it's going to be interesting to see how they play out for sure.
You know, and whatever happens on Monday night, hopefully the 49ers can win the game. There's a comment that I actually wanted to pull up from No Cap 805. Thanks for tuning in. He says, I think we don't have the Rams number no more. They will beat us 28-14, and we will go 7-10 this year. If that happens, if we go 7-10 this year, Kyle has to be fired. No disrespect. Well, what he's done, he's built the culture, but I do think that to elevate this 49ers team, if we do go 7-10 or have a losing record, I even think if we go 8-9, you have to fire him, because that is a losing record, and you cannot award a coach just for having one season when they went 13-3 and won the NFC Championship game. It's about the body of work, and Kyle, uh, we've all thought that he was going to make this offense look so good. Our offensive line was going to be probably number one, our running backs number one, our quarterback number one. All our offense was going to be the best of the best. And our offense has always been mid-tier. We've never been a top 10 offense. Our run game has always been the best, but we've never had a balanced top 10 offense. Our pass game with Jimmy Garoppolo has been like mid-tier 12 to 15. Our run game has been exceptional, always in the top 5, but we've never had a top 10 overall offense. So hopefully Kyle, basically was like, all right, I think I got to go back to the Jimmy playbook. Maybe Jimmy does not know how to run, because like everyone says, this was supposed to be Trey Lance's playbook. And, he was saying, let's see if Jimmy can do this, what Trey Lance stuff. But it looks like he can't do what Trey Lance is. They're two different quarterbacks. So hopefully we get the victory. Hopefully we can salvage the year. And hopefully this is the only week where we're all angry at one another and yelling at one another. Because football fans, they're like goldfish. We forget stuff when we win. We win.
Yeah, definitely. If the offense plays anything remotely close to how he looked in Denver or even Chicago, then yeah, I agree. Shanahan's gonna have to kick rocks, and maybe you keep stay in house and keep D'Amico Ryans as the head coach with that defense, because that defense looking killer.
Yeah.
But yeah, if that offense looks anything remotely close to how it looked in Denver or Chicago, then yeah, we're definitely gonna have to look a little bit deeper at Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah. Well, this was a fun show. I really, really enjoy it, and it's now the fun time of our show is our guest. Let's thank our guest for hopping on and collaborating on this special collaboration show. But before we go, just like we always do, 49ers Ultimate Report, our own tradition. We've always done this. This is your moment. So fans, thank our guests. Give them some appreciation in the chat. But before we go, this is your 2 minutes. You get to promote yourself. You get to let people know about your channel. If you got social media, and then tell the people what you do on your channel. Talk about your co-host as well. Thank you very much, BullyBall. Thank you very much, Alex, for tuning in. This is your 2 minutes. Let the fans know who you are, where they could find you, where could they follow you.
Yeah, thanks, John, for having us on. We appreciate it. It's definitely fun getting to work with other 49ers content creators and just kind of make that little community. So yeah, we are SF BullyBall. Find us on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. We're not very active on Instagram, but Twitter. We like to go live an hour before every game, and we like to have a chat like this. You guys are very interactive with John, very loyal fans. we would like to kind of work that into our community as well. So that's one thing that we would like to do. We have some great interviews. You guys should go check out former 3-time Super Bowl champ with the 49ers, guard Randy Cross, former starting cornerback Terrell Brown, Super Bowl starting cornerback Terrell Brown for the Niners, and current practice squad player Jason Poe interview. You know, they give a lot of great insights, and they're great interviews. You guys should go check them out. And yeah, just thanks to you again, John, for having us on. You know, we appreciate it. It's always fun working with guys like you, and it would be an honor to have you on one of our podcasts as well.
Yeah. And appreciate you for hopping on. And again, one thing that many people forget, you grow a community. You don't grow it by yourself. You grow it with everybody. And just like we talked about before we started the show, there is a big Niner presence on this channel. Not just on this channel, but in on YouTube. And some have, have worked with me. They do their own projects. They do their own stuff. Have respect for them. But those like my boy Shifty, hopefully maybe you in the near future we can work something out, be uh, part of this collaboration. We can feature you on something that fits your schedule. That's what I'm trying to do: build a good team, and I can also feature channels, promote channels, because that's the big promise I made to help the channels grow. Just like the hard work I did, I want to give back to the people who have supported me and helped me out. But thank you very much again for tuning in. But with that said, thank you very much for tuning in to the show. You know who I am. I'm John Jay. This guy right here is John Jay of the 49ers Ultimate Report. The guy next to me, his name is Alex. His co-host, also his brother, BullyBall, SF BullyBall. Thanks for tuning in as well. But just like I said, with that said, I'm John Jay. This is the 49ers Ultimate Report. You have a good rest of your day. And of course, go Niners. I'm hitting the outro.